I am here with my friend Anne Laure Jackson. Hello, Anne.
Hello, it is lovely to be here.
Now, we have been talking for a year plus about sensory health, about sensory health for younger folks, older folks, little people, bigger people, babies in the womb. We have covered a massive range of sensory health situations, shall we say. And I'm really enjoying the fact that we are learning and discovering that sensory health is a huge part of everybody's life.
And it's been so lovely. Like this week, I've been meeting lots of teachers, lots of special educational needs coordinators, other teachers, support workers, and bringing this to them and seeing how we can infuse it into the way that a school works, so that it becomes that flow of how we look at how people are, and seeing behaviors from a different angle, seeing it from a different perspective, so that it just makes life an awful lot easier and actually a lot more enjoyable for the teachers to teach, because they're addressing things in a different way than they have done in the past, and that's really nice.
I was at a conference a couple of weekends ago, and what struck me was people are more invested. I think more aware, perhaps, is probably the better word, of the fact that people need to learn in different ways. And we've had these conversations before, so I don't want to redo that one. But we've learned in schools, haven't we, that it's not just you can sit down at a wooden table with a solid chair. Everybody sits on the same size chair and table. You write down off what the teacher writes, and everybody learns. We know now, thankfully, that that's not the best way for everybody to learn. And it's not about individuals being better or weaker or stronger or less intelligent. It's about the fact we all learn differently. So that was really encouraging. But just seeing the ways in which the exhibitors were engaging with people. I mean, these are all people who were the Hand in Hand conference in West Bromwich. They were all people who work with children in churches, predominant. That's kind of their heart-ish. So you expect a kind of more child-friendly way. But upon arriving, I thought you'd like this. Upon arriving, there was this very, very happy, shouty group of people outside. But as you got there, you were asked to set your mood on the way in for your energy level. So you could have lots of energy, quiet. I've forgotten which ones they worded, but it's basically quiet, in the middle of the road, and very energetic. So you set your mood, and
Uh,
then I let it on overexcited, and you had this huge cheer as you walked through. But also, people who didn't want that could set it to the opposite end of, "Can I just arrive quietly, please, with a pillow?" Sort of. I loved that.
Oh, that is just superb. That is just brilliant. That is such a sensory affirming experience. Brilliant.
I loved it. I was sitting in the car thinking, who's shouting? Who's screaming? And it's just excited hello. That was what they were doing, unless you wanted a non-excited hello, which I thought was great.
Oh, it's brilliant. That's why I love one of these things that you can do, that we're saying when you greet people, you can have these different options when people come to your door or otherwise, and you can have a selection of these up against your door. And it might be that they want a high five. It might be that they want a hug. It might be that you just want to do a crazy dance or a little dance together. So you don't touch, but you can still move. Or so you can just say like hello. So you get the different senses, whether you want less auditory, whether you want more vestibular, more proprioceptive, lots more tactile. So there's different ways of being able to greet people. You had the real auditory and energy level experience, but then you can also have it add in the body stuff, which would be even more, do you want a really deep touch pressure hug or a high five, or just do a dance and actually no touch at all, or yeah, auditory. That's a good
It
thing.
made me smile. I thought it was
Mm.
great. And there was somebody who was slightly set off from them just by a few, a couple of meters, and he would greet you and say, "Hi, welcome. What's your energy level today? How would you like to be greeted?" So before you actually got to the very happy, cheery people, there was somebody who was quite soothing and calm that would meet everybody's sensory
Uh-huh.
temperature for the day, saying, "What's your energy level? How would you like to be greeted?" I just thought everything was just from the get-go was brilliant.
Wow, so like you had a two stage, you had like the button to begin with kind of thing.
So there was a guy in a lovely bowler hat who said, "Hi, hello, welcome. Would you like to set your energy level for the morning for your greeting?" So you could then set that, and then there was a group of people for the doors, and then little simple thing, but there was some people behind the doors opening the doors for you,
Mm.
which is great when you arrive. I mean, having been a bloke with a pram because I was a stay-at-home dad for 15 years, trying to get through doors backwards.
Uh,
Yeah, it's not the most helpful, but there are people greeting you, then they were cheering you, and then there was an open door.
oh, how welcoming, how gorgeous is that?
I thought it was fab. It was really good. Right. So we talked about red hair a little while ago, and I also talked to Richard Scott from a medical perspective of red hair, and he said, "Yeah, probably not, but let's have a look." He found an inordinate and more evidence than he thought possible for actually yes, red hair is quite an issue actually, and red hair women aren't going to have great fun with an epidural, probably won't work as well. They have to have much more. And there are some times where red hair would basically diminish the effects of anesthetic. And actually, oddly, conversely, sometimes where red hair would mean they need less anesthetic because it has too much of an effect. So it's fascinating how the color of the hair definitely can be seen to affect just anesthetic levels. So I thought I'd come back to you. Red hair, sensory health. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, maybe next time I'll actually go and research about it. I'm just aware because I mentor other therapists around the world, and it's all about the evidence-based practice that we do. And we're trying to find even the basics of autism and ADHD, and the kind of like the big things to get evidence-based practice for. And to my knowledge, yeah, red hair has not been in our research base to date. Who knows whether it may or may not come, and who knows if I have 5 minutes at some point, I may actually go and like take some time and just see what's out there. But I can't see it from our perspective, and I certainly know that as far as research is concerned, in the field that we're in, that there are, yeah, that there'll be other priorities, I would imagine, for our researchers. But always good to have in the back of the mind because it always needs to be open to learning new things. So.
And on that one, here's one that might sort of drift into your area a bit more. Paler skin. If you have red hair, you're more likely to have paler skin. And the problem with paler skin is you might be more at risk of skin cancer. However, it's also known that people with red hair produce more vitamin D naturally inside their bodies to counteract the risk of skin cancer from paler skin, which made me think, so the skin is something slightly different for people with red hair. Maybe it's not even something they're conscious of.
Mm, yeah, that is fascinating. Because because obviously the receptors that we are dealing with are different types of receptors. It's not actually the skin itself,
Mm.
it's the receptors within the skin. So that's an interesting one again to explore the difference between the actual constitution of skin and the receptors that are within the skin, which is much more the sensory processing and integration area. Hmm.
It got me thinking, so I thought I'd put it back to you.
You never know what might come out of it. So yeah, always good to give it a go anyway.
That's pretty much what Richard said. I didn't expect to find what I found, but it's more than just anecdotal. Okay, let's move on. So I had a long journey the other day, and this is becoming more of an issue around the world, I know. But lighting in cars, I thought it might be worth just going to this because I'm driving through the day and there's sun. I can put some sunglasses on. It's fine. Off we go. Got a sun visor, pull that down. Now I'm blocking the sun from my eyes so I can get on with the job of driving the car safely. On the way home, it's getting dark, and of course, lights are coming on. And as it got darker and darker, the effects of the car lights becomes more and more helpful and also more and more pronounced. And I got to the point where I found myself being sometimes blinded and driving on a motorway, so it's not the odd car. That's quite hard, but on some of the country lanes, because your eyes aren't being constantly hit with lots of light, those bright LED lights on modern cars are even more pronounced. And I read somewhere that you can be blinded temporarily for 7 seconds by car headlights, which is not a good thing. So my question to you is this: is there anything we can do for the sensory health? Because I had very tired eyes and a headache when I got home, which I'm not used to having ever. Is there anything we can do to prepare the eyes to heal the effects of driving against the increasingly, I'm going to say, illegal LED headlights, even though they're actually technically legal, but they shouldn't be allowed? Is there anything we can do to counteract that? And is there something we can do to diminish the effects of those lights whilst we're driving?
It's really hard if you are the one on the receiving end of it. Um, Now it was really interesting. I was in a car this week where they had the headlights actually automatically dimmed whenever it sensed someone else coming. And I thought, how? I've never seen that before. That was really clever. So the full beam went off as they saw another car approaching. Now that's a lovely thing, but we know we're not even talking about full beam though. You're just talking about the fact that the
Normal lights.
typical LED are so strong. I remember years ago, my parents had to actually put paint if they were traveling to France. They had to paint over the white lights to make them yellow. for them to be legal driving in France. Now we're talking about 30 odd years ago. I have no idea if that is still the case, but I thought that was very courteous that there was a recognition that actually that the bright white that we're used to in Britain was not what that the French wanted, something, slightly dimmer, so it wasn't quite so well, it was just a different color that was part and parcel of what was done to respect the French. The French eyes are no different to the British eyes, but it was just an interesting thing. But that's about other people taking their responsibility seriously. Um, and we're not saying if you drive a new car that you're not taking yourself seriously, but there's not a lot you can do other than actually choosing to make your own and paint over the top of the glass. Or that car manufacturers do put a bit more of a tint or a bit of a color thing on it, but that's for them. That's not for you. So if you're in that situation, it's really hard. You're in the light, you're out, you're in, you're out. Your eyes are having to be it's tough work. It's a lot of visual processing going on. And there's not a lot that you can actually do about the external, obviously. And there's not a lot, in some ways, you can do about the internal, apart from giving your eyes a chance to rest, I think. Keeping where you can, keep yourself. It depends if it's tiring, we may need to use the auditory system or more movement breaks so that you can feed in the vestibular system and the auditory system to keep you as well as possible. But for your eyes, that's really tough. And it would just be just rest and close those eyes over and just take out all stimulation for a while and let them almost like that brain processing recalibrate and maybe just like a 5 minute break, just close those eyes. You might be actually quite happy enough in your own mind to continue driving, but your eyes, it will exhaust your brain. With that level of darkness and then light and then the intensity of light and then that's tough.
When driving on the motorway, I mean, as a guy who used to drive trucks 10 hours a day, I'm quite used to it. I can sit there happily for 4 hours and a bit, and I can drive in one go, get where I'm going. Don't need to stop, and quite happily, quite safely. But now I'm finding myself with a change in lighting, I'd say in the last sort of 6 months, 2 years possibly, as they become more and more well used, as older cars disappear, newer cars come onto the market, I'm finding myself more and more tired out, but not from driving at night. And it's not like I'm an old man and now I'm getting, it's not that. I can still happily drive, and I did yesterday, for like 4.5 hours. Absolutely fine in one go during the day. Coming to the night time, it's not the driving that's tiring. I know it isn't. It's a really good car to drive. It's the fact that the lights have changed. And I'm going to say in the last couple of years, really, where it's changed from, yes, it can be a bit tiring at night, but hey, that's fine, get through it, to, do you know, this is actually getting quite dangerous because sometimes I literally can't see what's going on around me. If I'm looking out the side of the window to try and make sure I can move into another lane, actually now I'm looking towards the cars in a different context, and now I'm finding myself blinded by the cars coming behind me. I flashed a car the other day because I thought, yeah, your main beam's on. They flashed them, and they flashed back, and I thought that's not your main beam, and I can't see anything.
Right.
And you can't adjust the lights like you can old-fashioned lights.
I wonder if there's a film that you could put on the inside of your windscreen that might actually deflect or slightly, the same way like going to France. Did you ever have that as a truck where you'd actually go and put like you'd change the lights if
Hmm.
you were traveling in Europe?
I never drove over Europe, but I have seen plenty of vehicles. Either they move like a little filter thing on the headlight, which moves the angle of the beam from right to left, depending on which country you're in.
Okay,
Um, I know of the yellow lights. I've been to France a few times. I know. I mean, for example, you can't wear shades at night because you can't see. You don't want to tint your glass the window because now it's dangerous. And yes, rightly so. But I'm just wondering, is there nothing we can do to filter out the LED lighting
Mm.
specifically? I don't know. It's a bit of a longer chat.
Yeah, no, I think it's worth seeing what kind of film there might be that you can actually just put over your screen because it's like, say, for example, the touch system. We have receptors when it goes on and off and on and off in the skin. And that's what's quite disconcerting and really plays into ADHD, really plays into attention because those receptors, as the clothes move over or different touch experiences, they're being stimulated all the time. It's like on, off, on, off, on, off, rather than a constant. And that's where we often talk about having like compression clothes or having deep touch pressure, just having something that's going to stop those receptors being stimulated on and off and on and off and all the time, which is what's happening with your eyes when you're in that dark, and then it's bright and then it's off and then it's bright and then it's off and then you've got it in the back and it's like there is no the extremes are pretty extreme. It's extreme black or it's extreme
Hmm.
color or extreme white. And you're on off, with that with your eyes, and it is a lot to process. So it's just seeing if we can dampen. We can't do anything about the dark. The dark is dark. I don't think we can make that any lighter, unless you had your own something on the top of your car, which was like a general beam, like a police car, but it's just like, it's the Andy B light. It's kind of like you're going to carry your own light with you so that it actually lights up the darkness so that the lights of the cars don't penetrate that darkness too much. All the wonderful spiritual analogies in there, I'm sure. But it's if you did carry your own, it would take away the intensity of the other cars coming in the other direction or coming from behind you in the dark.
I know, for example, in America, I think they're allowed to tint their windows, which baffles my brain because in the UK, I don't want tinted windows, thanks, because now I can't see at night time.
Right.
So making your windows darker is just dangerous. But something that could actually filter out the light, I think, would be great. I'd
Yeah,
love to see
certain color
manufacture.
spectrums. Yeah, certain color spectrums, especially with some of these lights. So you still have a degree of brightness, but it's not as impactful the way that it is at the minute.
Because the idea when they first came out is that we're supposed to be lots more light without being brighter, because it's a different frequency of light. So rather than the yellower light of a standard old-fashioned car bulb, which the French then obviously went even further and painted the outside of the light cluster, the LED was supposed to be more light without being brighter, so you'd be less effective to people, less bright for people. And I think that's probably true. Our car's got one of the earlier generation xenon, which is the bulb headlights, so it's much more bright light, which is great. But I also know it doesn't produce masses more brightness, so actually it lights the road for me, but doesn't affect other road users. But that's definitely something that's changed. I would like to see a mass recall of all cars, just recall to manufacturers and like paint on something onto the light, so it's less dangerous. I know the police are very behind on this one,
Right.
but it just got me thinking about how lights can affect what we're doing and whether there was something we could, I don't know, wear. I know some people wear a set of goggles or something. I've seen those. I don't know if they're good, safe, legal, or effective, but thinking, is there something we can do? Because we can't stick, and it's not coming from down, is it? If it was the sun, you can put a visor down, you can block the sun,
Mm.
or wear shades, and it blocks out the worst of the sun. When it gets darker, you take off the shades, and now you can see okay. But I'm just thinking, is there anything we can do for the sensory health side of things? We can't stop the lights, but maybe we can help ourselves out. But hence
Mm.
my question.
Yeah, I think you just need a big light on your own car. Stick it on the top so that so that the intensity of the other lights don't penetrate and don't affect your eyes quite as intensely, or a
That's
film on
interesting.
the inside. But
Yeah,
interesting.
it was just one of those where I thought I'll ask you because my eyes were tired, and it's a tiredness I'm not used to, and it's not from driving, and it's not from lights, because you can go for so far, I'm fine, and then all of a sudden you get a sort of a group, I suppose, of these new bright light LED lights, and it's actually not just uncomfortable. Actually, I'm thinking broadening into dangerous. Can't fix that problem. That's a government level, but actually we can try and help our own sensory health, which is the whole point of these conversations.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be fascinating because I'm going to be driving in the UK over the summer. Haven't been doing that for ages. Normally, whenever I fly over, I take the train and things. So I'm going to experience this. And but yeah, I know what it's like. Even even here, the 9 by 5 miles that we are as we travel around. I live in town, so we have lights. There is a general level of lightness, which is really easy to live with, really, because you have consistency. It's like consistent light. It's like that touch system. You have consistent touch. There is consistency, and that's the same for children and routine. That's consistency and routine, and it's a lot easier for our systems generally to live in, and for us to live in, good sensory health when we have consistency, when we have routine, a little bit of change, whether it be on off kind of experiences or a little change in routine. It's good just to keep things a little bit soft and a little bit looser. But the intensity of extremes or changing routines, changing things quite intensely, it's not good at all. Not nice.
Your advice on that one then is just to take a rest as needed. To let your eyes basically, well, visual processing stuff have a little bit of a chill,
Yeah, it's like a brain break. Your eyes need a break from all the processing that they're doing. Yeah.
which I think I'm doing without thinking about it, because normally if I'm driving in a day, I don't stop. I can go 4 hours quite happily. I'll just drive to
Right.
where I'm going. But at night time, I'm taking like a 30, 40 minute break, which I would never ever do
Right.
and I've never needed. And I know it's because of the lighting stuff that's going on. So I think in a way, maybe I'm trying to sort of self medicate, if that's the right sort of phrasing.
Self-regulate. I mean, it's not as if
Yes.
you, because it's not as if you're getting anxious, but you can tell you're getting tired, and
Mm.
that's a healthy level of regulation. We often talk about self-regulation when we're going into meltdowns, and when children are starting to hit and kick and scream, and or adults are starting to do the same. But that's the start of it, when you recognize that actually you're not functioning the way that you'd like to, that you're not at a full capacity.
Mm.
You travel during the day, you're 4 hours and you're absolutely fine. Whereas you can recognize that actually, yeah, your brain is starting to struggle a little bit more, and it wouldn't be as safe for you, not as enjoyable, and then probably not as safe for others. So yeah, eye mask, and maybe those all kind of like take a cucumber in the car. And to protect your eyes, but that's a different thing. But yeah, just imagine Andy B. There we go. It's a nice visual picture for people to to take away with.
I can hear the police call. There's a bloke in a car with cucumbers on his head, on his face, and he's got a beard. What's going on? It's fine. And Laure Jackson told him to. Um, what have what have you had in the last sort of week or two where you think, you know what, this is a really lovely story of something? Let's finish on something healthy and good. Where you think, yes, we've had some success.
Oh, um, well, one of our, I tend to go for I tend to work with the extremes of behaviors, I suppose, and it's just really lovely when you've got young people. It's normally young people who end up dropping out. The signs are there when they are children, but when they're getting into those teen years, and it's just like, no, I've had enough. The body's had enough. I've had enough, and it's just not going to happen. And so, yeah, just having. I mean, I'm a big homeschooling fan, but I support schools because that's where parents choose, and if that's where they want them to be, then brilliant. Let's support them as best possible. But this chap wasn't wanting to be there at all. So yeah, it's just really lovely to have those little success stories where the schools have changed what they do with the individual. They've looked at their sensory processing. They've found what we call a sensory diet, which is looking at every single activity that you do and making sure that it fits somebody's sensory thumbprint so that it's not too much stress on their eyes or their ears, or they've got enough movement experience if they need it, and what type of movement experiences, and so on. So yeah, so we've had just a lovely success that he's happy to come back into school. The activities that we've got for him, okay, that they're not your typical kind of like classroom activities, but the fact that he's even back in school, for those who recognize that your children, even getting them in the school building is huge. And so we have that success there, that he's happily coming into school 5 days a week, and is in the environment and is learning at the capacity at which he's able to learn. So that was really nice.
It's good to have a success story. And I guess one of the things I'm always fascinated, because I think it's what people would want to know. But how long did it take for you to have, from start to finish, to get that success story?
That was about 4 months, that one.
So from start to, I'm guessing he wasn't in school very well, didn't want to go,
No.
struggling, and then now he's happy to go into school again.
Yeah.
And it's a sensory health fix.
We're supporting his sensory. Yeah, I don't know why I have such an issue with the word fix, because I mean he is, like, for him not to be in school, and now he is in school 5 days a week and he's happy to be there. That is kind of a fix, I suppose. Not that he needed fixed, the
No,
situation needed fixed. Yeah.
but you've helped a family with a solution that has corrected the struggles they were having in order for that child to engage in school with their peers, with their teachers,
Yeah.
and it's going to set him off in a different direction from wherever he may have been going, because sensory health was not in a good place.
Can I give you another one?
Yeah.
It was just really nice that the little child, he's quite active. This is a little one. And he just would not hold his mum's hand. So the dangers and the risks of crossing the road, going back to the car thing, the dangers and the risks, it just not understanding danger, not recognizing where his own body was, all the rest of it. Didn't want to hug, didn't want to come close, just loads of issues. Anyway, we were working on specific things over Christmas and specific treatments, as you say, and and being able to come back. And the mum's just delighted because he's now able to hold her hand. She has no issues with him crossing the road. She doesn't fight with him anymore. He's very happy to come for cuddles. He's very happy. He's a lot more settled. In school, they say he's not on the edges anymore. He's not on the perimeters looking in at what the other children are doing. He's actually joining in now. He's actually starting to play football, which they've never seen before. So this is just from Christmas coming through. And yeah, so another nice, life change. But for mum, it's really interesting the fact that he would hold her hand crossing the road, just whew, she could just relax being out and about, because he was a danger to himself, because he didn't understand his own self. His old body wasn't well integrated. And therefore it's much harder to perceive the rest of the world when you're not even perceiving yourself very well. And we did some treatments, and he's really settled and very, very happy and very glad for that.
Was that because he didn't like to hold or be held, or was it a tactile thing?
It was a tactile thing, and it was a proprioceptive thing, and a vestibular thing. So there were lots of things involved in his processing, but mainly those three. Because his whole body awareness, his whole reactivity, the way that he would react to being touched or people coming close to him, that fight or flight that would be set off by what he would by experiences, and all of that has really calmed, and he's become just a lot more aware of his own body. So that well done, that family, well done, mum. And then the school are now continuing to do these things within school. So we've tweaked some of the things that he's now doing at school, so he gets more input at home and at school. So because he still needs supported, but he's an awful lot better than he was, so it's good.
Oh, it's so lovely. But that's the point we've talked about. This comes up a lot through our conversations, where we talk about knowing your place in the world, not sit down and shut up, not that place, but your place, your position, where you are, who's around you, how you interact with others. Knowing your place in the world means being secure in who you are. But in that scenario, that mum can't reason with that child. They can't say, "No, the reason why we need to do this is because it's dangerous and cars are quicker." That's not a conversation you can have, at which point that sort of approach of parenting, that's out the window, which is what I guess most modern parents would look to do. Try and talk to the child, explain the problem. And that's great if they can comprehend it. But if they can't, or they have an inability to, that's where they need extra help, which is fab. Thank you, Anne. I like to have some success stories. It's good because I guess as people who, I hope they're going to be listening and thinking, I don't know are we going to get through this? But it's great to have, yes, you can. And look, here's two families whose lives have been improved because sensory health, very, very different struggles have now been resolved. And now that mum can cross the road with the child without worrying about the safety and what are people thinking of. I'm not beating my child up. I'm just trying to hold their arm because it's important, and all the ramifications of that. And actually, what a beautiful conclusion for that person's sensory health and the sensory health of the family, of course, which is also going to be positively impacted.
Yeah, it affects other siblings. Absolutely, 100%. And the relationship between the parents, and you don't have dad thinking he needs to come down on the child any harder, and it's just like, no, that's fine. You were doing the right thing. We just need to tweak things a little bit and actually just help his system.
Oh, lovely. Thank you for sharing those. It's nice just to get those positive stories, especially for people who are perhaps pre-Christmas to that child situation of how are we going to deal with this? Actually, there's a solution, and it may well be a sensory health issue. And if it is, Anne Laure Jackson may be able to help you. And on that side, if you want to get hold of Anne Laure Jackson, go to our website, pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/ALJ, and you can get in touch with Anne and get all the help you may need. Anne Laure Jackson, thank you for another session. Feels like sometimes a personal therapy session, but I think the ice thing people will be interested in. It's not just for me.
Oh, it's great. Thank you, Andy. I really appreciate these. It's lovely. Thank you.
Did you know Pure 24/7 Radio has a shop? Well, we do. you can buy merchandise while supporting the work that we do here. Simply head over to www.pure247radio.org/shop. That's www.pure247radio.org/shop.